Hello everyone, this is Mentos23 from Chessmeal, and welcome to the first episode of Trap Tuesday, where I will present to you an opening that is uncommon and that I enjoy playing and think can be effective, and show you guys how to play it. So, the opening I will talk about today is the Marshall Gambit with Knight f6. Many of you probably know the main lines of Marshall. For those of you that don't, this is how it goes. We start off with the Lopez, and here we play d5, sacrificing our e5 pawn for activity. Here, there are over 11,000 games with the main move, which is pawn to c6. After c6, black's ideas are bishop to d6, queen to h4, and developing the bishop to g4 or h3. The main lines go c6, d4, bishop d6, rook e1, queen h4, g3, queen h3, bishop e3, bishop g4, queen d3, f5, f4, where black has ideas such as rook a to e8 and pawn to g5. Now, the line that I will be showing today is a bit different. Instead of playing c6, you play knight f6. There are a little under 1,000 games with the move knight to f6. So, you may be asking, why is it good to have very few games? And the reason is because it will be very surprising to your opponent. Especially in a blitz match, your opponent will likely not know what to do. And even in long games, your opponent will probably not know what to do. And it will give you an edge of the element of surprise. So I will go over the three most popular moves after d4 briefly, then quickly go over two games, including knight f6. One was played by two very strong chess players, both 2400 plus, and one was actually played by me at the Chicago Open in the under 2300 section. So, without further ado, let's get started. The main line is if white plays pawn to d4. After this, black wants to play bishop d6, rook e1, and knight g4, which is the whole idea of playing knight f6 in the first place. If white chooses to play pawn to g3, then black's idea is to play either queen to f6, forcing a move like f4, queen h6, h4, queen g6, where, as we can see here, white's kingside pawn structure is extremely weak, and black can easily target all these weak pawns. There's a beautiful game that was played recently, which features this, where black sacrifices his rook and gains enormous compensation, with many mating threats that eventually overwhelm white. Now, let's go over another line in g3, which is sacking on h2. If king h2, queen h4, king g1, bishop g3, and if queen f3, which is the best move, you want to play bishop h2. White's king is blown open. You have ideas like bishop h3 and rook to a to e8, and this is just a very good position for black. If we want to explore it even further, if white plays king f1, then bishop f3, king e2, bishop g4 wins the queen, and if white chooses to play king h1, then many moves win here, and it's just up to personal preference. However, if we want the most precise continuation, then that would be bishop f4, king g2, queen h2, king f1, bishop h3, king e2, and rook a to e8. This position is just beautiful. All of our pieces are playing into the attack, and white's king is completely crushed. Now, if we move on to a different popular move after knight g4, another move is pawn to h3. After this, we want to play either knight takes f2, which king takes f2, king h4, sorry, queen h4, my bad, king g1, bishop h3, gh3, queen g3, king f1, queen takes h3, king e2, rook a to e8, king d2, queen g2, rook e2, bishop f4. Again, absolutely beautiful position. All of black's pieces are playing into the attack. You can also choose to play queen to h4, and after queen to f3 to defend this pawn, then you can here play knight takes f2, and if queen takes a8, then knight h3, gh3, and queen takes e1, where we have already won the material back. And if we continue the line, we can see that black obtains a winning advantage. And if queen takes f2, then a common theme in this opening is to play bishop h2, king f1, bishop g3, and win back the rook with ideas like bishop takes h3. Now, the next line that I'm going to go over, the next main move, is pawn to h3. This move seems like a very, very logical move. The whole point of knight on f6 is to play knight g4, so what if we just completely eliminate the possibility of letting black play knight g4 in the first place? Now here, you have two options in this position. One option is to play bishop d6, rook e1, and sacrifice a knight on g4, playing knight to g4 anyways. After hg4, you play queen h4, queen f3, queen h2, king f1, queen h1, king e2, rook e8, king g3, queen e1. And here there is some complicated theory where white has to play very precisely only to make a draw. If white plays all the correct moves, then the line will follow. Bishop f7, king h8, bishop e8, bishop takes g4, queen takes g4, and here if queen takes a8, then we play bishop f5, king to d4 only move, and queen to e5. Now, so white is forced to play queen takes g4, queen takes c1, bishop c6, rook f8, queen h5, queen b2, bishop e4, h6, queen g6, king g8, queen h7, king f7, and white has a perpetual check with extremely precise play. And this is still just a draw. This is not a win for white. This is still just a draw. So, another way to play against this is after h3, bishop d6, or d1. You can choose to play more of a solid line, and with bishop b7, sorry, not knight g4, bishop b7. With the idea being d4, queen d7, a4, rook a8, and here black's main plan is to play queen c6 and provoke the weakness on f3. This is actually what happened in my game, and so we will explore this line in greater depth later. The last popular move after knight f6 is pawn to d3, which here I suggest playing bishop d6, rook e1, and bishop to g4. The reason for this is white will either play queen c2, queen d2, or f3. After queen c2, you play bishop f5, and then you always have potential tactics like taking on d3, and then taking on h2, if white takes back with the queen to win his queen. And if white ever plays something like bishop to g5, you have tactics such as bishop h2, king h2, knight g4, winning the bishop. Now, if white plays queen d2, then his development is quite horrendous, and you just play normal, simple moves, develop all your pieces, and eventually all of your pieces will be in great spots, whereas white will be somewhat stuck, and you'll reach a position somewhat like this, where all of your pieces are playing, and where white's pieces are still not activated. And I think we can all agree here that black has more than enough compensation for one pawn. And finally, we have the line f3, which the idea for black is very similar to the ideas I've discussed previously in h3 lines, which is to play bishop f5, d4, c5, bishop e3, and queen c7 to provoke h3. Otherwise, they lose the h2 pawn, or they play g3, which gives black lots of sacking potential with bishop takes g3. And if h3, then as discussed before, white has some huge holes, especially around their g3 square. Now, after we've gone through some main lines of this opening, I will now show you some games. The first game is a game played between 1:26:30 and 1:23:90 in the Olympiad in 2010. Now, here, white opted for the h3 line, and black here played bishop d6, rook e1, and knight g4. After queen f3, queen h4, d4, knight takes f2, rook to e3, knight d3. Again, lots of crazy tactics here. The reasoning for knight d3 is if white plays rook takes d3, I'll quickly put on the engine to show you guys. Then Black has a nice move, queen e1, queen f1, and bishop to h2, winning the queen on f1. Now, after knight takes f2, I'll turn this back off, sorry. If queen takes f2, then bishop h2, king f1, and bishop to g3. And then here, after something like queen to e1, we have many ideas here of bishop h3 and bishop e1. So, white opted to play rook e3 here, knight d3, rook e4, queen g3, bishop g3. And here, I already prefer black. Black has already recovered the pawn, and I think his pieces are much more active. We can see how this game continues for a bit, and black gains a material advantage and a piece activity advantage. And here I think we can already stop analyzing, simply due to the fact that black is at the very least much better here with his extra pawn and greater piece activity. So the next game is a game that I played in the Chicago Open under 2300 section of this year. Now, the first 12 moves are the same, but here I opted to play the more quiet line with bishop b7, d4, queen d7, bishop e3, and queen c6. After this, white was forced to play f3, otherwise I threatened mate on g2. Bishop to g3, bishop to f2, queen d6, bishop d3, queen g3, knight d2, rook a to e8, knight f1, queen h4, queen d2, knight h5, rook e5 to exchange more pieces, rook e5, d take at e5, knight f4, rook e1, and rook to d8. Here, all of my pieces are playing. My bishop is overlooking all of these weak pawns. My queen is poised, ready to attack. My knight is on an excellent square, targeting g2 and h3, and my rook is soon about to be even more activated. Now, in the game, what happened was queen e3, queen g5, threatening mate on g2, g3, my opponent decided to give back the pawn, and here I messed up. I played knight h3, king g2, and I did not see anything here, so I decided to exchange queens, and later we reached a drawn position and agreed to a draw. Unfortunately here, I missed a crucial move, which was rook to d3. After queen takes g5, which is forced, knight takes g5, there are 3 attackers on the f3 pawn, and only 1 defender, being the king. This position is much better for black, and may not be winning immediately, but at the very least guarantees black a comfortable edge going into the endgame. And with that, that concludes our first episode of Trap Tuesday. If you plan to use this opening in Blitz or an over-the-board game, I strongly encourage you to analyze it more. I only covered the very basics, and there are so many more lines that you can discover by yourself. This opening is good for Blitz, especially because not many people will expect this, and they will not have time to calculate what they can do to counter it. However, it can also be useful for over-the-board games, like I've just showed, because not many people will know what to expect, as there are very few games here, and you can definitely surprise your opponents. Thank you for listening to the first episode of Trap Tuesday, and I hope you have a wonderful day.